Yeah.
Chris Walker comes in with a good question. As we get back to the rest of the team, he says, I know we shouldn't expect to make the playoffs this year, but is our defense going to prove any or at all? Yes. And I think there should be big time improvement on the defensive side of the ball. Last week, Nick, we talked about maybe, the biggest concern I still have on both sides of the ball are in the trenches.
Yeah.
And after we did the show, the Falcons went out and got Eddie Goldman at nose guard. Now, not saying he's Aaron Donald, but he is a humongous upgrade over what has been there in the past year or maybe even longer. So now, instead of Grady Jarrett and oh my God, and I don't think so, you got a legitimate pro and Eddie Goldman next to Grady Jarrett, and now there's just one question mark in that 3-4 line. Well, that's 2/3 of your defensive line now that is now in good hands instead of just 1/3. So starting there, that is a huge improvement, and it didn't just stop there for the defensive improvements, Nick.
Yeah, nope, it's a big one. Also, you talk about the edge rushers should be better better than last year. We don't need to dunk on Steven Means more than we already have on this show. But you have Arnold Ebiketie, you had Malone from Western Kentucky. You bring in Lorenzo Carter. The pass rush should be better. Now, that being said, you're talking about day 2 edge rushers. Typically, if you're taking an edge rusher outside of the top 10, 15, it's more of a slow burn where, year 2, year 3, that's when it clicks versus, immediately on the scene dominant. So it still should be better than last year, but it's going to be baby steps expected for that front. The other question would be losing Oluokun. Is Troy Anderson going to be healthy day 1? What's that look like for that front? Is Deion Jones going to improve at all? Considering the defensive front in front of him should be improved, but coming off a surgery, there's question marks there. But the Falcons defense last year, probably one of the bottom 5 in football. They have pieces now, but it's probably more of a where they're going versus where they are this year conversation with a lot of those pieces.
Yeah, and just, talking about, okay, start on the defensive line, we go to the edge rushers. By default, they still might not end up being good, but they can't be any worse. So therefore, by default, do they get better? Yes, they improve. Lorenzo Carter should be at least an equal to Dante Fowler. And Steven Means was the worst pass rusher in the NFL. God bless him. He was, just look at the numbers. They're impossibly bad. You should be able to mistake your way into having a better pass rush than them. And again, talking about, I think the Locked On Falcons, I think it was Marcus did could we get double the sacks from the edge rushers? I'm like, well, hell, if you doubled the team sacks, you're still only tied for 18th in the NFL with 36. That's how bad it was. So yes, it's going to get better. I like the linebackers. And then in the backside, hopefully you'll see an improvement from Richie Grant. But you don't necessarily even have to see an improvement because, Harmon and Harris were just okay last year. They weren't great. And then Casey Hayward is a huge improvement over Fabian Moreau. Huge. Yeah. So AJ Terrell, these are the things where you might end up with you think you've got the answer and you might not. As long as AJ Terrell doesn't take a step back, it's a possibility. We're not counting on that. If he continues playing at his level and Casey Hayward comes in at one corner, this defense should be a lot better. And not just better, they should be more exciting. It should give you more options to send pressure from different places where you couldn't get any pressure with the blitz, you couldn't get any pressure without a blitz, and you couldn't cover anybody for long enough. It was just try and hold on and keep it close and maybe kick a Younghoe Koo field goal at the end. So yes, this defense should be improved a lot, Chris.